The Atomic Real Estate Show, bringing you the real estate of real estate. Brought to you by Danny Bennett Productions in partnership with Direct Subs.
Ryan Dolan here, my colleague Nick Cessna. We're back for another episode. Today we're going to get you up to speed on what's going on in the current real estate market. Tons of news going on for real estate agents. There's a lot of news going on in the interest rate world. So let's bring you up to speed. One thing that we kind of didn't want to get into, but it's unavoidable, right? This NAR settlement, the National Association of Realtors, they got smacked with a $418 million lawsuit. What this will mean is the Department of Justice came down, brought the hammer on them. They'll pay it back over 4 years, I think, which effectively means that, they're pretty much bankrupt, right? They don't have the money to pay it back. So ultimately, what does this mean to the consumer? Because that's what we care about, and obviously we care about our referral partners. They just can't disclose on the MLS what the buyer's agent's getting paid. So it just can't be public knowledge on that MLS. They're going to have to, what the Department of Justice is basically saying is, hey, it shouldn't be up to the seller and the seller's agent to negotiate what the buyer's agent's getting paid. The good news is for the consumer, now they know what they're going to pay on the way in. But unfortunately, it may be out of their own pockets, which would hurt.
Let's break that down real quick from my understanding, and we'll just try to keep it at a caveman terms that I understand here. So when we pay realtors to sell our homes, the seller pays the realtors.
Yes,
right?
They do.
And a lot of people don't understand that. When you have a buyer's agent, the buyer's agent is paid by the seller. And what was traditionally was 6% of the sale price. Now, traditionally, it's kind of 5%. It's negotiable, 5%, 6%. There's some people even going down lower than the 5%. I've had people offer to me, like, hey, I'll sell your homes for 4%, and I'll take a hit and all that, talking about the realtor. So if it's a 5% deal where you agree with your realtor, say Ryan is my realtor, and he's selling 123 ABC house for me, and I sign something with him like, hey, you're going to sell my house at $200,000, and it's going to be a 5% deal. Typically, 2.5% goes to him, which would be $5,000, and 2.5% goes to the buyer's agent when they bring a buyer in, an agreement of sale is signed, and they agree to buy it. So they would make $5,000. So for every $100,000, 2.5% is $2,500. So that now you're seeing a lot of realtors making videos and all these. It's unavoidable on social media right now. They're all freaking out. There's a lot of people that are getting ahead of it, which is great.
The good agents are going to be all right.
Correct.
I mean, we know that. So
there's people bitching. There's people which I hate to see in any industry where people are just complaining and bitching, and they're going on stories. And honestly, if you're complaining and bitching about that, that's not good for your buyer's going
to pick up on that immediately, right? You're supposed to be the calm in the middle of the process.
You look like a fucking clown.
The problem is you're going to have to get right in front of it as an
100%.
agent, right? Like you're not going to tiptoe around it anymore. So the common misconception, as you say, and most people don't even realize this, a lot of people don't, especially first-time home buyers, is how do I pay a real estate agent? How do they get paid? Like, what do they get paid? So that's just going to change a little bit, right? So now the good agents will pivot, right? The listing agents will do great as always. But the buyer's agents will just have to get more creative. Look, if you're doing a great job by your people, you're taking them out, you're knowledgeable, you're upfront, you negotiate a fair price, why wouldn't you take the representation? You guys see it a lot more, right? You sell a lot of properties, so you do that negotiation you guys will set it on the list side.
Sure.
And now it's going to be a little different, right? You'll get 2.5%, 3% for your seller's agent, but now you don't have to worry about kind of really what's going on the buyer side. I mean, they're going to have to work together.
I mean, I don't know how the particulars of this are all going to play out. I don't think anybody.
That's the most important.
I don't think anybody really knows how this is going to play out. But you hit the nail on the head. I feel like good agents are going to be proactive instead of being just reactive.
Sure.
And just do the right thing. Like, just get out there, do the right thing, still represent your buyers to the fullest ability. Stop worrying about the commission. And that is the biggest mistake with realtors. And so many of them do it. As soon as they get a lead for a house, oh, it's $1 million house. They immediately calculate on their phone, what's my commission going to be? You got to stop doing that shit. Just treat the people right. Treat the process the way it should be treated and go from there. Like, stop being a clown. Like, I have agents that'll reach out to me like, hey, do you have anything off market? Yeah, sure. And they know the deal. Like, you're going to get paid. Like, you bring a buyer, like, you're going to get fair compensation. I don't pay 6%. Like, we used to pay 6 when I think I only did that for like 1 or 2 houses and then immediately stopped that. And it was just always 5%. And if a realtor is doing a good job, bringing me a good buyer, and they're representing their buyer in a good way, like, I'm going to pay you.
Yeah, you'll get the compensation will follow. So the important part is the DOJ basically said, all right, these real estate agents have had the longest standing kind of monopoly built into this thing. I don't really see it that way. I do think they're providing a great service, but on the devil's advocate, they are amongst some of the highest commission-based paid employees in the world. 5 to 6% is a lot of money, especially where home prices are now. So the most important part, back to your point, is July is not. We don't know anything until July. No one will know a thing until July, right? This is going to get. There's going to be a ton of pushback. It's going to get drug out. They're going to have to fine tune some things. But again, this is where a consumer and a agent that you work with are going to have this uncomfortable conversation up front. So the better you can present it to your client about what services you do actually provide is probably how you're going to get compensated, to your point, right?
This NAR stuff has realtors. You need to check on your realtor friends that are online complaining about this stuff.
They might be at the bar right now.
They are on a bridge. Or they are standing on a chair with a rope around their neck. Like, tell them to back off, stop with the woe is me Instagram videos, and just do the right thing, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, and look, even if you don't know what's going on, you just got to kind of be the calm through the storm. Like, we don't know all the ins and outs of this. We will have a awesome webinar on it, brought to you by our CEO of our company, that we'll post on this link. That's going to have all the updates with it, right? Like everything, how it impacts the first-time home buyer. Look, it's hard for them now. It's going to get even harder for them to make it, right? Because the buyers are going to get compensated. Buyer's agent's going to get compensated somewhere. And in a competitive market, and if the seller doesn't have to give up much, they're the ones that are going to probably hurt, or they're going to feel it out of their pockets. Lenders are probably going to get asked in a position to cut fees, which we're not. We've already went through that in 2008. We're not going back there, guys. Like, this is something that it's an easy conversation. If you show your worth, don't worry so much about the money, get it done out front. Now you know what you're working with. Now you know the tangible dollar amount that's coming in and out of your pocket. So
cutting fees is where it's going to come. This is the problem.
That's the other
This is
stuff.
what's going to happen. You're going to have, in this slower market, let's be honest, we are in a slower, low inventory market, higher interest rates, not as many products move as quickly as they were. There's just not as many product, not as much product out there. So you have a lot of agents who were not big time hustlers that are financially hurting, right? You're going to have some of those agents that are willing to cut their fees. And then it's going to be a domino effect in cutting fees. Then you're going to have scumbags that are in a position to sell homes. People that do what I do that are absolute dirtbags, they are then going to say, fuck you, I'm not fucking paying you.
Well, so then let me ask you that. If you're getting a new property up and going, right, you know you have a home run. It's selling no matter what. You have a listing agent that agreed on 2.5%. Do you even have to give that? Are you going to give any more money to the other side? Or are you going to say, hey, no, let them pay for it? Like, obviously we don't know all the crux of this thing yet.
Listen, if it's a first-time home buyer, the last thing that they can afford is another 2.5% hit on themselves, or a 2% hit or a 3% hit on themselves. You're asking me if a realtor comes and they do their job the right way, they make things smoothly, they're representing their client in the proper way, they're a good person, I am going to compensate you.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how this is all going to play out, but as much as I destroy the wrong things that realtors do, and I love to do it, and I'm always going to do it because it's so easy. It's just a layup.
Yeah, you do it out of sport now.
Because they're just like so many. And the good realtors will tell you there's so many of them that just shouldn't be doing this job.
Yeah.
Right. And they're the ones that
look, the great ones
on.
The great ones are great. And the great ones, again, will rise to the top during things like this. Like it's happened like back to us and lenders in 08, 09. It's the guys that were either doing the wrong things or out of the industry. The guys getting into it were taught how to do the right things, right? So, and look, do I think they have done anything wrong or, right? I think they're doing great. I think their commission structure was pretty good, in my opinion. But the Department of Justice sees differently than I do.
Different countries do things differently. It's so hard to even believe everything you see on the internet anymore because it's so many things are just fabricated. But I watched a European realtor talking about it, and their buyer's agents don't get compensated at all. And don't quote me on this, but they have this program where it's everyone's happy over there, like how they're doing it. They just do it differently than us. But is it going to end up like that? Who knows?
Yeah,
like,
we just don't. We just don't know.
Knows?
I think the short term kind of look on it is right. It's like provide as much information as you can, right? As much information as you can give to your buyers, your consumer, give it to them. Talk to your partners. Like this is where lenders like myself, we're kicking it up in high gear to strengthen our buyers agents relationship because guess what? Unfortunately, you guys are going to need us a little more now. So you got to play nice in the sandbox, right? It's like, and that's what we should have been doing the whole time. And we do, and for most cases, right? But when people are making a lot of money, things get cushy, things don't get as transparent. I actually like it because now you're an open book. We know what we're working with. You get the hard negotiation stuff out of the way, and we can just get down to business and get the people into the home. So I'm, we'll see how it kind of shakes out. Like this dropped on Friday. We have no clue what the heck is going on.
Yeah. So realtors, pull the gun out of your mouth. It's going to be okay.
But moving on to what happened again in my world in the interest rate market, the Fed had their announcement, the Fed meeting this week at 2 p.m., they announced again they're not going to ease the cuts on interest rates, which was widely expected. Pretty much 97% of the Fed pretty much had that prediction ready to go. We're thinking probably June, July, you're going to start to see maybe the possible ease where they say, hey, we're going to let off. Which again is not direct mortgage interest rate, but it's all correlated. So we'll have a lag behind it. But at the very latest, I think the first one you will see is September. That's just my professional opinion. But right now, we're in a comfortable spot, right? The national average is 7.11 on interest rates. You can get a lot in the sixes, depending on how well your credit is, your down payment, all that good stuff. So definitely reach out to us before you just kind of look at the national average or go to one lender. Talk to your professionals, talk to your local guys, talk to people that bought the houses, or just give us a call, and we'll let you know. But yeah, the rates are kind of unchanged. The inventory did spike up almost 10% from last February, which is great. I saw this morning 9.5% I read, but again, this
still
is like
wildly low.
It's still way low, right? But we're controlling what you can control. Like for our company, like this has been one of the busier months that we've had in a few, maybe a couple years, to be quite honest with you.
I can attest to that because every time that we have to talk to each other on the phone, your phone's blasting. You're like, oh my God, I'm running around. And
I'm always late.
Yeah.
Always late.
Even yesterday, you're like, dude, I had to sign up. I'm coaching my kids in baseball. I'm like, I have no time. I'm like, dude,
it's part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
So it's like now, and it's all good there. Like, so consumers should be kind of optimistic about what's going on in the market as this inventory will tick up, which it will. It'll get out of there.
Springtime, people
need to buy
get
and
out of
sell
the winter
homes.
hole and they just start.
It's the truth. It's like right after the Super Bowl, right when the nice weather hits, you're outside playing with your kids, doing whatever. My phone will not stop. That first nice Saturday, my phone rung all day long. Which is great because it means people are finally settling and say, hey, this is kind of the new norm moving forward, and it's going to be. The whole goal is to get the market stable, right? Rates will come down a little bit. Home prices will stabilize a little bit. They're going to increase. I mean, you see all these forecasts. I don't know. What's your thought on that? Because you keep seeing these year-over-year predictions, 3.5%, 4.5%, 4.8% over the next couple of years. Where do you see home prices going?
I mean, are we ever going to see a 2.125, which I have my personal house in again? Probably not.
I don't think that we will see it for
not.
At least for the next. Again, who knows?
Who knows?
The only things these things happen, right, is global crisis. Financial meltdowns, pandemics, things like that.
I mean, we're coming into an election year too, so usually things get messed with there.
It'll
right?
get messy there, right? But look, the Fed, if anything,
it could go for the better or the worst. Who knows?
Yeah, I think, look,
Depending on what platforms people are running on and who
the Fed showed you the playbook. For nothing, like everybody trashes them, right? Powell's actually, we were discussing it in my office the other day. It's growing on us, right? Because they're giving you the playbook. They're telling you, we're just not listening, right? We want rates to come down so fast. We want home prices to stabilize so quick. But the market will take care of itself, right? So higher for longer is probably where we're going to be at for right now, right? We're probably going to cruise in higher for longer this year.
It's a new normal.
Because it's working, right? As ugly as it is, it's working. Rates were too low for too long. A lot of us benefited through those unicorn years. And now the new consumer feels like they're slighted, they're cheated a little bit, but they're really not. Now that sentiment is going away a little bit. Now they're saying, hey, I got to buy a house. Because if you're paying $3,000 in rent, who cares? You're lighting your money on fire anyway. So it's like time to get to it. There's tons of first-time home buyer programs, grants. I mean, there's so much stuff out there right now to get your rate down, to get you in a comfortable spot. So
honestly, I think what really hurt us in the market was such low interest rates. And you don't see all the bank-owned properties I can't remember the last time I bought a bank-owned property.
Remember all those real estate, I mean, you know the names, the REO Kings and Queens, I mean, their whole business was...
They aren't doing any listings anymore.
They're not doing anything.
You're starting to see them periodically, those names pop up.
Well, foreclosure rates are at the lowest they've been in years.
Because you can afford it.
Yeah, because people can afford it.
And they have massive equity in their homes.
Yeah.
So if you're hard up, you go get a line of credit on your home that has, a lot of these homes have 6 figures of equity in them. Yeah. So you're hard up, go get an equity line, and you live off that while you figure out a way.
And most people are doing that, right? While consumer debt's extremely high, everybody.
That's going to become like a predatory thing too, where people are keying in on these people. Oh, we noticed because we have access to data and we see that you're back on stuff. Well, you know that you have all this equity in your house. We can tap into that. We can get you $80,000 in cash right now to help you pay your bills. Well, if you're in a position that it's hard for you to pay your bills as it is now, you get another 80 to 100 grand in your pocket. You're probably not going to be that smart with money. Now, the people that are going to be like, all right, I'm down on my luck a little bit. I'm just going to go work a couple, secondary jobs, and I'll have this extra money to pay my bills. And then as your house is continuing to grow equity.
Yeah. So that's the most important piece. It's like you got to get in the game, right? Because you keep seeing these values go up. They're not coming down. I mean, they're just not. So what you got to do is figure out, is it comfortable for me to get in? And if it works for you as a person and a buyer, then get in, because you're going to look a lot smarter in 4, 5, 6 years, just like we all probably, everyone's like, man, it's just timing. You can't time the market. You can't time the rates. If you're ready you got such a short time on this damn earth. It's like, you can't just punt 5 years buying a house just to wait for rates to get down. It changes too much.
We talk about all the time. It's the new normal. And when the rates first went up to, what were they up to the most? 8.5?
Yeah,
right?
we were doing some 8.5ers.
People were shocked.
Yeah,
right? People
residential loans. Yeah, it was a lot.
People sat on their hands, and then it dropped down a little bit, and then it just, people were like, oh shit, like this is where we're at now.
Yeah.
So people are just comfortable with it. Now it's normal. Okay.
It takes the general public a lot of time,
6
right?
months to 12 months for Joe Smo to be able to, realize what's going on and be comfortable with the market. So people are spending. Like the house that we're sitting in now is one of my homes, and we listed in the winter, which was like, all right, should we wait till after the Super Bowl to list, or should we list in the winter? It's like, you know what? There's still buyers out there. We'll list it. I didn't need to list it right away, but it was like, we collectively were like, all right, let's just put it on the market, see what happens. It's not going to hurt us. The product is good. And then once the weather started to get nice, then it was like, we were having periodic showings. People were like, oh, I want parking, this and that for this price point. And then it was just like the floodgates opened up. And then it was just like, boom, we had multiple offers.
Yeah, some great buyers in there too.
One around the corner.
Yeah.
We tried to get a couple of your clients in there.
Absolutely.
And people were like, oh, interest rates. And then I was like, yo, I'm getting offers, bro. Talk to your people.
Yeah.
And then it was just like offer. And then somebody came really correct, one around the corner. And then a younger girl, her agent called my wife, because my wife was the agent on that house representing me. And Jen said, this agent called me and said, listen, this house is exactly what my client wants, but she just started. And Jen was like, well, listen, the sellers are not going to wait for you.
Yeah.
They don't know you. You seem like a nice person, and you're saying that your buyer, this checks their boxes. that's your job to be like, yo, you got to educate your buyer.
Yeah.
And then it went under contract right away, and the buyer then called back, and the buyer's agent was like, hey, I told my buyer to, and now we looked at everything else, and she's hell bent on that house that you have, and do you have anything else coming up? And Jen told her, like, yeah, we have some stuff coming up, but like, I told you this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking told you this was going to happen. And, but now, that person's like, oh, well, can we get something
that's coming up on deck, right?
Yeah, but I'm not going to lock anybody in on that.
All right.
It's
Well,
like,
then,
especially for somebody like, they're not represented by you.
Yeah.
They're not represented by an agent that I know. Right now, Jen did say the agent seemed like a super nice person. We've never dealt with them before, so it's like, obviously your clients and agents that we know as clients get preferential treatment.
It's nice to know, guys.
But that's just how it is.
So now we're getting a lot of calls, like as your stuff goes up and it's flying off, right? Like the market's hot again. It's never not been hot. It's still a seller's market. Things are flying pretty quick. The offers, you get a little more time to negotiate down in the city. Probably,
it's a
right?
seller's market for flipping when you put out quality.
Yeah.
When you put out a shit product, it is not a seller's market. Those days of doing shitty flips, Band-Aids on balloons, and you know who you are. That's the type of shit that's not going to sell, and you're sitting on a market and you're having to play all these games with the market. Just do quality and you'll sell.
Well, why is it that? I mean, obviously that's just some people's kind of game plan.
You have less buyers now. There's a less buyer pool market because of the higher interest rates, right?
For sure.
And why would you want to buy something that's not perfect, right? When the interest rates were low and these houses are climbing crazy and people are waiving inspections, they didn't care. They just wanted to get a house, right? Now rates are a little bit higher. These people the smart buyers are like, they're walking in, they're like, their moms and dads are probably like, oh, I can't believe you're going to spend this much money on a house. But then they're like, the dad will walk in like, oh, this quality is really nice.
Yeah. Think about
And
that. If you have a kid,
the dad can't pick
when
my
they
shit
sign
apart.
off, when they sign off on it, give the seal of approval because, right, parents will pick anything
Come
apart.
on to home inspection, Dad.
Hey, come on, take a walk, right? If you pick out one air vent that's maybe out or something like that, oh, well, so be it. But as long as a father will know, or a mother, whoever goes in, is the trusted source of this person buying a home. And when you walk into one of your houses, you're selling it to one of your kids, sons or daughters. This stuff is great, right? So this ended up selling.
Quality sells.
Yeah, and your guys' stuff is the best,
quality
right?
sells.
No joke, it's the best stuff out there. So what we've been doing is we've been getting a lot of calls, right? Well, how do you get the funds to get this thing started? We touched on it the first couple episodes, but like, how do you get the money, right? And now a lot of my calls are, right, I can't touch my 2% mortgage, but I want to get in the flip game. I want to start selling houses. I don't have any cash. I use my HELOC up. Like, what's my next move, right? Like, so for you guys, how do you, and there's all different avenues, right? Timing and money's always tied up. But like, what's kind of some of your go-to plays to finance some of your jobs?
Hard money is a great way.
Yeah.
Private money, if
you're lucky enough to know somebody that's willing to give it,
if
right?
my wealthy friend Ryan has
$4,000
$500,000
laying around, yeah,
and he wants to be a lender for me, I pay you 10% on your money on a 12-month amortization. So for every $100,000 you loan me, I pay you a monthly interest only, a juice payment of $833.33. So you times that by 10. So say you gave me $1 million to work with, right? You give me $1 million and I hold it for a whole year, right? You're making $100,000 on your money on me.
Sure.
Which a lot of people aren't making that in the market. Unless you're very intelligent and you are a great Wall Street investor, you're really not consistently making 10%. What are people normally making?
I mean,
Six.
For us, this is why we always link up with our financial advisors. You chat with your CPAs, kind of see what the market's doing. Everyone has a different philosophy.
You may have a great year of 12, but then you may be followed by a year of 4.
Yeah, for sure. It depends if you're an S&P investor. It depends if you're a high-risk investor. Really, if you're crypto, obviously that's giant now, which I don't really get into that world.
I don't know anything
about it. That's headline news now. When the markets shift like this, Bitcoin is always back in the market, right? It shoots from 20 to 60. Now it goes back down. So that's kicking around again. But it depends on what kind of investor you are.
If you want to get in the flip game right now, like what you asked me, if you want to get in the flip game right now, how do I think you should fund it?
How are some of the general public guys? Because I know you've done hard money on a lot of you've connected us with great hard money people.
I think you should save your money, right? Save up some money, have some skin in the game. Hard money people are going to want you to have 20% of the acquisition price, and most of them.
Yep.
15 to 25% of the acquisition price, and then they will do normally 100% of the construction cost.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a couple points up front, and then you're going to get a certain interest rate, that's based off of your experience level and how well the property
Your
is and all
relationship
that.
was with the
Exactly.
bank. So now when you do that, right, like people say, okay, I buy a house at $200,000, right? I put 20% of my own money into it. Now
40 Gs.
my acquisition with fees all in, I'm at 50 grand right out of my pocket. My loan amount's 160. Financing another bit of the job for $100,000, right? So now your after repair costs are $400,000. The next question we always get is, how the hell do I pay off a 12-month note, interest only? And that's where we come in, right? Now you can refinance.
If you want to hold it.
If you want to hold it.
it.
If you want to hold it, sure. If you want to flip it, and make your money back on the settlement, pay your note off, then you make the profit, right?
You made it a habitable home.
Yes.
You renovated the home and made it live in condition.
Yeah.
Now. And you've increased the value of the home by doing your repairs. And that's when you analyze a property, you look at your after repair value. ARV is something that all these lenders are going to want to know. How do you get that? You talk to people like me. You talk to agents. You talk to other investors in the area that know what things are going to cost, what they're going to be worth what you put into it. And then you're talking about then somebody can come back to you. They're like, hey, I want to hold this.
Hold it.
Because I know that I have equity in it already because I bought it for one, put two into it, and now it's worth four.
Yeah.
Right? So they have equity into it. And
So
some
now
of
you have
they want to hold it.
Yeah, you got a decision.
That's where you
right?
come in,
Yeah.
and you can refinance for them, give them a mortgage. You pay off the hard money loans or the private loans, and then they lease it out. Now they're collecting. Say their mortgage. This is just for example. Say your mortgage is $1,500 at your taxes, your insurance, all that stuff, rental license fees, all that kind of stuff, the stuff behind the scenes, and they can get $2,000 in rent. Great. Cost you $1,500, you're getting $2,000 every month. Now you're in the green, $500 every month.
You have
$6,000 a year.
and you have a rule of thumb kind of on like every door should collect how much money you think if you're doing it that way. And I know that varies, obviously.
It all depends. So what I would normally say is like you need to make $500 a door.
Okay.
Right? That's a no-brainer. Do it. And I tell people this all the time. I even tell you this. You need to buy a rental property a year, or one every 2 years, and then one every 1 year, and get yourself 5 to 10 rental properties. That's the best retirement account you can ever have. And if it doesn't,
and you could do this on all hard money.
and
Your
it,
guys
yes.
would do that. Okay,
and it
cool.
doesn't really matter if you're only making $100 a month, because you're not looking for the income monthly. You're looking for the end game.
Yeah.
Right? Like we had a bunch of stuff in North Philly that we just sold. And it was like, I don't want to deal with North Philly rentals. It's just North Philly problems, right? So it's like headaches, different headaches. But I bought them. The values went up. I collected rents. I was making a lot of money monthly. But then, there was like at one point like 50 some units down there. And then we sold them all off.
And that's
Made
and
a
you
bunch
say
of
like
money.
those geographic locations, right? Like everybody deserves a spot to live. Everybody deserves quality kind of living. You reference
You have to be you have to have a certain mentality, a certain personality to survive and do well in low income areas.
But low income areas is kind of, unfortunately, is where you get started. One, because there's so much turnover, right? There's so much turnover. Either it could be flips, tons of rentals. So
There's
like
great people in low income
and
areas.
great. I mean,
and if you
they're
put
awesome.
if you put out a good product, like my whole thing was central air, and laundry, because I don't want people in lower income areas that are, let's be honest, low income areas. There's higher crime rates in low income areas.
Running the laundry match, you're doing
I
all
don't
that
want
stuff.
you running the laundry
Yeah,
match.
no way.
I want to protect I want to give you a better way of life. So our rental phone still rings now, and they call like, hey, Miss Jen, can I? Do you have any apartments available? I want to rent from you again. And she's like, no, sorry, we don't have anything in that area at this time, and this and that. But that just goes to show, if you are treating people the correct way, you're treating people the right way, that business just follows you.
So then they pivot to buy. I mean, ultimately, you want a lot of these renters to stay put, but then ultimately you want them to become buyers of some of your products too, right? Because they feel comfortable. They know your product. They know it's a great quality of life, good, awesome living, which there's so much stuff out there for first-time home buyers, right? Like when we say stuff, grant programs, down payment assistance, 1%, there's 100% financing loans depending on what kind of work you do. If you're a medical professional, if you're a veteran, there's where your combined loan to value could be over 100% of the actual acquisition cost. So
a lot of people honestly don't even realize that they can afford a home that they're renting in. And it happens periodically, and something that we do with you, we'll say, hey, Rye, we're going to sell this property in Roxborough, Manioc. We have renters in there. We're going to go in. The lease ends at this time. We're going to plan on going in and just sprucing it up, doing some paint. But why don't you come up with, this is what we're going to sell it. This is what we want to target to sell it for.
Yeah.
And then you come up with a whole spreadsheet and you say, you mail it to the people that live there now. Like, hey, you guys give me a call. This is potentially what your mortgage could be like to live here. This is what you're paying in rent. You could own this property.
Sure.
And you don't have to move. You don't have to move out. So that's something that investors, when they're getting ready to pivot to sell a rental property, to take it from a rental to a flip and sell it, you have value to add to that.
You could drive the whole operation.
It's all about educating people. And that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create this little ecosystem that we have where it's, we deal with the same people all the time. And it's like, hey, we got good tenants here. Like they've shown that for however long they've paid really well. I don't know what their credit score is, but this is a conversation that you should probably have with them. And hey, we'll open it up to them and say, hey, listen, it's getting to that time where we either have to renew your lease or break it, and we're thinking about possibly selling the building, but you've been such a good tenant. Would you want to possibly buy it? Have a conversation with Dolan, see if you can afford to buy it.
Look, and it's something as simple as, hey, if you've paid first and last month's rent, say, okay, I'm going to buy this. Take that first and last month's rent.
Security
and
deposit.
we're going to turn around and make that your down payment and closing costs somehow. It's like, there's ways to do that, right?
Sure.
We have guys, and everything that we discuss on the show is kind of, relevant to what's happening in our businesses. And it's, how can you create value? How can you make the deal work for the client, right? Obviously, you have to have that consultation call and find out what the goals are. Find out what items you need to hit for that client. Like, if it's got to be the monthly payment, look, everybody wants a low interest rate, low closing costs, low monthly payment, but you can't have it all. Maybe you can't have it all. You can in a lot of cases. But, for example, one deal we just had, a guy did not think he was going to move. Couldn't do it. Couldn't afford the monthly. Could not do it. I said, well, how do we get the rate down to a comfortable monthly where you got, and we're talking 2+ points from the national average. I mean, it's a big jump. But you get creative. You link up with the real estate agents. Everybody puts the cards out on the table. Who's willing to make the deal work? We grabbed this guy $20,000 in seller's assist because the house will definitely appraise. He went in hot with a great offer. He was willing to cover any appraisal gap, and he got $20,000 to buy his rate down to the low fives. I mean, and now he hits his number, and he thinks we did something. We didn't. We just kind of discuss, hey, how can we do this the non-traditional way where everybody kind of wins? Everybody
just have to educate them.
Yeah, and the seller loved it. He was like, hey, I would have had to have this on the market for a couple more weeks. I would have probably had to make 2 or 3 more mortgage payments. He was like, this was a great idea. He was like,
I mean, I tell you all the time, it's all about educating
yeah,
people.
It really is.
And with social media, and sometimes you're too busy and you're doing so much, you're running from client to client to client to client, especially in busy times. I tell you, take a step back, slow down. I'm getting ready to list this house. Give me the hard numbers on what it would be for somebody to buy this, what credit score. And we've done that. And I've proved that to you one time. And it turned into someone who bought a house from us and then has bought
we have had younger clients to which we should get those brothers on, right? I mean,
because we educated them and you were like, dude,
you can make it work the right way, right? And you look and you can say, oh, well, my W-2 is only this. Well, okay, then we have to do this, right? There's always a way around it. Sometimes, and if there's not, you tell them. You set up the blueprint. You set up how you get there. But there's so many alternative ways to deal with getting the finance. And if you're dealing with the guy, you guys on the sell side, there's plenty of opportunity to negotiate.
There's so much
right?
opportunity.
And then there's sometimes there's not, right? The property's too good. It's in too great of a location. Like you have one coming up in Philadelphia in the Andorra section. That's going to be an absolute showstopper, setting the comp. There's no doubt about it up in that area. And look,
it's going to fly off the shelf.
You're not going to be able to negotiate that one, right? But it's in a price point where you're getting a deal anyway, right? You're getting a home that you're going to live in for the next 15, 20 years. That's going to appreciate so much in value. So that's where they're getting.
That neighborhood alone, up behind Cathedral Village, anybody in the Roxborough, Manioc area, like my tile guys were up there the other day, and they're like, oh, this is nice. They're like, what part of the county is this? Like, what part of Montgomery County is this? I'm like, you're in Philadelphia, bro.
Yeah,
you're in Philly.
You're on the line, man. I love it. It's great.
And they're like, really? This is Philly? They're like, this looks like I'm in the suburbs. Like, it's all single homes. Like, it's a development. I'm like, yeah, man, this is.
Well, they
were
Philly. All the pockets, right? As the neighborhoods expanded, like where all the city officials had to live within the city limits, which is kind of like, I guess, a hybrid truth now. Like one of the
I think the firemen. I think the fire department have to live there for like 5 years.
I think that's what it is.
I don't know if the cops do anymore. I think the teachers. Do the teachers have to, or do they not?
No,
anymore?
they do not anymore. For us, at least, I know that the police officers were able to kind of move out, but I think as the new commissioners come in, new rules apply, right? So
but I think
they try to pull them back.
They're dying for cops now, so like,
well, because you need that wage tax. You need that city wage tax on the paycheck. I mean, it's a big number. So
I don't even understand the mentality of the city by doing that. Like, hey, you employees have to live here. They're already paying city wage tax, right? And let's be honest, there's really not vacant homes in good areas. You know what I mean? Like there's not, dude. So it's like I don't understand what their approach behind that is. It's kind of like greed to me. Like, oh, you work for us, you have to live here. I mean, that's like an old.
Yeah, but if you ever took a look at the pie chart on how much the Philly wage tax actually goes into the city's budget, it's like 25+%. I mean, it makes the wheels go, like, for the city. So it's extremely important. I get it, right? Like, we go in and out of the city for our work as well. So, like, paying the wage tax is just part of the deal, right? It's it sucks. Look, it's taxes.
If these politicians didn't
taxes.
ruin all this money,
it blows
run
no
it out
matter
the back
what.
door, it'd be fine, right?
But look, I mean, the point of it is, like, if you're able to do your business down there, you're able to get a comfortable living, make money, sell, like, who gives a shit about paying the extra wage tax, in my opinion? But yeah, like, that project coming up is one of the dopest projects that you guys had. I mean, it's
cool. I sent you a picture the other day of the tile. Like, we did like a whole accent wall in the master bathroom. It's got a double vanity and it's tile. I don't know if you noticed that. It looks like the wood slats. So you did that, yeah. But it's tile. It's like 4-foot sections of tile. And then Jen came up with a pattern. So it was like similar to a subway tile. It was like, 2.5 by 9 or 10 inch tile, but it's like a wavy cut.
Yeah.
And it had a little bit of an off-white to it. And she'd made this like pattern. She's like, listen, I saw this one time. And she like laid the tile out. She's like, can you do this? I'm like, girl, we can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So she laughs about it now because we used to push back at her. And she would say, this is the tile that I want. This is the pattern I want. I'm like, well, who are you hiring to do that shit? Because, like, that's a pain in the ass to do. But, or we'd be like, that's ugly. Now my tile guys, I use the same tile guys for years now after I put my tile saw away. And they're like, yo, we ain't even questioning Jen no more. Like, everything where like we question it, they're like, then we do it, we're like,
it's fire.
Oh shit, she's right. Like, this is cool.
Yo, dude, I actually wanted to ask you about that. All right, so we went through like, all right, you grab the property, you get the financing piece, right? Whether it be private money, hard money, or conventional loans. How the hell do you find all these people to contract a job? Well, you're the GC on it, but how do you sub out all these guys? Like,
I sub out a lot more than I used to.
Okay.
And, I sub out all roofing. Replacement windows, I sub out. If it's new construction windows, we do that like while we're framing and put that all in. I sub out tile. Since my dad retired, he couldn't keep up with us. Actually, before he retired, he flat out told me like I can't keep up with you no more, kid. Like,
yeah, I mean, you guys got so many jobs going on.
So like we're like, all right, no problem, Dad. Like, just we'll bring you in for service stuff, whatever. I hooked up with this dude from Port Richmond. I mess with him all the time. He's like the Prince of Port Richmond. But Matty Rispo does all of our HVAC. His company now is called Downtown Mechanical. Roofing, HVAC, tile, plumbing we kind of handle in house. It's just it's through Joe, and Joe's damn near like an uncle to me at this point. Like, he stops at my house, comes in, gives my kids gifts and shit. He lives down the street from me, and I've known him for since I was little. he handles kind of all that, but it's not really like I'm not hiring a company. It's like, hey, Joe, we're going to lay out the job, like come in. He has guys to come in, master plumbers, and they do everything. So I'm still like kind of involved in the plumbing. Electric, a dude used to work for me. So he worked for me every day. And then we were like, yo, bro, you're like in your 40s now. Like you got to start your own company, dude. Like we helped him out, like pushed him, like you got to go on your own.
Sure.
So I get other people to give them jobs and stuff like that. And he comes in now, and Jen was just yelling at him yesterday on the phone. She's like, "Is Kenzo there?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's there." Put me on fucking speakerphone. And she's like, "I got 35 grand in checks here for you. If you don't have me an estimate on
How
this
does
job
a Port Richmond
right
guy
now,"
take to the Kenzo?
Right? Yeah, right. I'm like, if you don't, she's like, if you don't get me an estimate for this job and I give you a down payment, I'm not giving you this 35 grand. He's like, so he's like, all right, no problem. So I hang up, and he's like, dude, he's like, you would think that I would be mad how she talks to me. He's like, I need her.
Yeah.
He's like, I need her
Kicks
to
his
kick
ass
me in
in
my
gear.
ass
Yeah.
to make me better at business. He's like, she's looking out for me and making me stop and do these things and put it on paper and get her stuff right away. A lot of times I have to chase guys to pay them because they're like, Nick, I'm not worried about you. I know that you're going to pay us. You're good pay.
So these guys are what? Just are they licensed contractors,
Yeah,
union guys?
all
I
licensed.
mean, because
All licensed.
like so regular guys like a lot of our listeners are first time investors are always asking me like, dude, I don't have any network of guys like that, right? So like one of the guys on the show has a company called Direct Subs, which is awesome, right?
They connect investors and homeowners with contractors.
I mean, as simple as that, right? It's like if you don't know where to go, that's your first stop, right?
Sure.
But if you're lucky enough to be in the business as long as you have and live in such a great area that we have so many different connections, you can pull from those resources as well. Yeah, but the direct subs idea I thought was, a phenomenal one because not a lot of people have that. And when you find out, right? And you don't know the quality of person you have coming in your home. And when you go back to it, if you hire somebody that's not a great painter, doesn't do good trim work, like it turns out to be a shit product. There are the homes that sit on the market. There are the homes that you can negotiate, but then the buyer almost settles.
Well, the cheapest bid is not the best bid.
No doubt.
And I try to tell people all the time, like you're an investor and you're trying to shave everything you can to make your profit. You bought the house wrong. You make your money in the
We missed
acquisition.
that whole. I was just going to say we missed that whole point about in the beginning, and we've always said it. It's all about the acquisition. You screw up on the acquisition. Now you're behind the eight ball. You're playing catch up. If you break even, you're lucky.
That's where the saying that we always say it comes from. FTG, you're fucking the game up.
Fucking the game up when you overpay, for sure.
It
There ain't
comes
no doubt.
from, like me and Stevie O calling each other, me and you calling each other, like this motherfucker is fucking the game up.
Just grabbing a property to do it. So we got guys that, one, either aren't linked up with the right people and don't know what to buy, right? So they just think like, oh, $200K would be a fair number.
You see it all the time in this neighborhood, in Roxborough, Manayunk, and East Falls, where you can tell from the MLS who these people are buying the homes, right? And I look, see what agent they use, and then once it's public knowledge, like, all right, I look it up, and I'm like, oh, they have an address of like wherever, Jersey, far into the counties, New York, Canada. I see one recently, it was like Canada. And I'm like, oh my God, like you have no idea about this neighborhood. And you could easily lose because you're like, okay, a 4-bedroom house is selling for this. It's a lot of street specific stuff
for
around
sure,
here.
yeah.
It's parking. It's how wide is the house? How big are the bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Like there's a lot of different factors other than just the cookie cutter. MLS tells me it's worth this when I repair it. It's not.
But is it? Yeah.
It's not.
And that's every neighborhood, in Philly especially, and surrounding
Philadelphia
boroughs.
is a city of neighborhoods.
It's hyper specific on what the neighborhoods are and the education pieces, all that stuff that go into it. So, you have these agents that I always laugh at them when they rename the neighborhoods that we grew up in, right? They always change the neighborhoods, and now they draw the lines in the neighborhood. So all these new city neighborhoods that I never heard of throughout my
Well, they're trying to
entire
push
life.
the one now that's down below East Falls. It has a 19129 zip code, but it's down there by Allegheny, right?
Yeah, yep.
They're trying to call that paradise. Listen, when
Is
we
that
were
for
growing
real
up,
the name?
when we were growing up, that shit was not paradise.
Is that
bro.
what is that for?
Yeah, right. So that's what they're trying
A
to call
lot of
that.
dudes from Roxborough, Manayunk, though, came from like that Allegheny, like Swamp Poodle area.
Yeah,
like
Swamp
back-
Poodle.
Yeah.
Well, that's up a little bit.
Yeah.
Swamp Poodle. That's a real neighborhood name. If you actually look at like the city map of Google this, and you can actually see the actual neighborhood names. but like Fishtown, right? They want to. Every realtor this drives my buddy Gallagher insane. He's a lifelong. He's the equivalent of us in Fishtown.
Listen,
right?
I spoke to him yesterday. Somebody got me mistaken for him. I said, I'm not a towner. I'm from Roxborough, Manayunk section.
He's the man, right? But he says all the time, he's like, he calls people out. Like, he's an agent too, but he's an investor. He wrecks people. Like, he just pulls the carpet out from people all the time and just exposes the nonsense these realtors know. But they all try to claim it's Fishtown. Like, and he's like, this ain't Fishtown. Fishtown's where I live and where I grew up. That ain't Fishtown, dude. Like, that's fucking Kensington, or that's Port Richmond, or you can call whatever the fuck you want to. That shit ain't Fishtown.
But they're doing this right to get the zip sell, or at least helps market it. But you're not exactly being 100% truthful from the list side, right?
And they don't really know, and they're trying to push things because they're like, oh, it's Fishtown.
Or your investors probably pushing the agent as well,
Sure.
saying like, "Hey, we got to market this as a Manayunk property, not not that it matters East Falls and
but the neighborhoods are different, right? And even in investing wise, and I talk to him all the time about stuff, and he's like, "Dude, it sucks around here right now. It sucks in Port Richmond and Kensington and the nice part and Fishtown." He's like, it just blows right now, for investors and." He's like, stuff's just sitting. It's things aren't moving, and it hit them a lot harder because they are more of a trendier neighborhoods, right? And you have, you still have like crime really close by.
Sure,
like super.
That's
close
just
by.
an element that you have to deal with living in these areas.
Like really close by.
Oh yeah, but with decent affordable living, I guess that's probably the other side of it.
Yeah, but then there's $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $1 million homes in Fishtown too.
That are primaries. A lot of my guys buy them as rentals at this point. New construction as rentals. You take the tax abatement, you cash flow pretty quick, and then you sell it in 5 to 7 years. Right?
There's dudes that we went to high school with. Like when we went to high school, we went to Roman Catholic. There were still Kenzos that went to there, and they were always like rougher dudes, right? But then
you definitely knew that.
And then Port Richmond dudes, Fishtown dudes, and a lot of times they moved out, right? Their parents moved out. Well, now a lot of those dudes are coming back in.
Yeah, for
They're moving back into those.
No doubt. Well, number one, if we get one person from Swamp Poodle that writes into the show, we will send you out a hooded sweatshirt for the show to show our love for our Swamp Poodle people. I know a couple older neighborhood guys that are from there.
Well, the Corcorans were down by there, weren't they? But that's more so like the Paradise.
That Charlie and those guys. Yeah, they're Allegheny guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is news to me. I didn't hear Paradise. But I'll tell you what, they are building a lot down there on that corner of Allegheny near Sherman and all that. Yeah. Either way, we love to see that stuff happen, right? It's funny to us because you're growing. But again, we're trying.
Well, so there's a neighborhood, right, where somebody could say to an agent, hey, find me. I want an investment in East Falls, Roxborough and East Falls. And if they don't know the area, right, they're a county realtor, they don't really know the area, they're going to pull up 19129, which is East Falls. Well, part of 19129 isn't really East Falls. It's the hood.
Yeah.
Like Newkirk Street and
Newkirk,
all in there, right? It's down over in that little pie of streets down, Hunting Park, over by Mercy Tech.
Yeah.
Right? That's still, there's some stuff over there that's like 19129 down further over. And they're going to say, oh, it's East Falls. Like, no, it ain't.
Yeah, but if you can kind of look
or Westmoreland. I'm sorry, I'm saying Newkirk, Westmoreland, and all that stuff down in there.
So say play devil's advocate though, because if that's trending in that direction, as a buyer, you may want to get in early on the jump. If you have say, hey,
it's in the path of progression.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because if you're like, hey, I could snag this right here at a good price, it's fully renovated. This neighborhood might be on the up and up in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Hey, that's a good play. I like doing that.
Me and C talk about that all the time because you had that big Strawberry Mansion push.
Sure.
That's coming up 33rd Street, right?
Beautiful houses,
and then you have the East Falls, right? And it kind of meets right there in that Paradise area, right? And then that's a 19132 zip.
Okay.
19132 is majority hood.
Okay.
Just hood, low income. But that area right there is in the path of progression, like where those two neighborhoods could sandwich in. It may take a little bit more time now because of the interest rates being high and a lot of investors sitting on their hands. But it would be in the city's best interest to give some kind of benefit for investors going there, buy vacant lots, buy blighted properties, renovate them, because that is kind of pied off in those streets.
Did
if you look at the grid,
City hook you guys up with any programs, anything to get you guys started?
They used to do stuff like down in Temple Medical where I was, where Tommy was like, "You got to come down here and buy everything around me. I'll be the big shark. You just be the feeder fish that eats all my scraps." And he did some program where he was buying like blocks of land and building stuff, and I didn't get into that because that was above my pay grade at that point.
I remember when you were rolling down there all the time.
Yeah, everybody's like, "What are you insane?"
But you wanted to get in the game, and that's how you got to.
That's how I got in the rental game.
Yeah, you got in the rental game. You had a giant portfolio there, but then as your business grew, you said, "Hey, this is something I'd probably like to get out of. Sell them off. Let the next guy get it." Right?
Because we were doing flips, right? We were doing flips. I was doing bathrooms, kitchens, flips, all that stuff. And then Tommy grabbed me and he was like, "Listen," he was like, "You need to buy rentals, bro." And I'm like, "I don't want rentals. Like, I don't want to deal with people. Like, I'm not a people person with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like when people mess up, like I don't handle that well." And he's like, "Dude, I didn't answer a single phone call last year and I made $250,000 from rentals." And I was like, "I want to be a landlord."
Yeah.
Right. And
so what was your first one down there? Tell us a quick story about your first grab. How did you get it? You know, what made you take the leap?
It was a triplex and a lot that came with it on 15th Street.
Like that takes balls. Like I wouldn't do that now.
Yeah, dude. Like there was like that neighborhood of Temple Medical was like, so crack hit that real hard in the 90s. And but if you think about it, there's no younger crackheads anymore. All crackheads are like 45 to 50 and older. It's all heroin addicts now. Well, in that area, there's not many heroin addicts. There's no heroin dealers. Heroin dealers are all deeper into North Philly, over in like, down off Allegheny and all that stuff.
As you talk about this stuff, you had prior in your prior life, you have experience in this stuff. So
we're not going to get into that.
We're not just shooting the shit there.
So, with law and order type shit.
We've talked enough about this stuff in the past, yeah.
So I was like, all right, this area is really just like the people that are left here. They stayed and they made it through all the troubles, right? And I'm like, there's good people around here. And then people saw me like working on stuff, sweeping up out front, cleaning up trash. And the neighbors they'd be like, "Hey, you got a card? You got a number?" Like, yeah, like, all right, I'll let you know if there's any issues at nighttime or anything like that. And then I got into it where I would buy a house. I would look for old ladies. I would look for the old lady on the block that's sitting on her porch. I would go introduce myself to her. "Hey, my name's Nick Cessna. Here's my phone number. My guys are going to be working on that property over there. Any problems you have, you're not going to have a problem with my people. I can guarantee you that. Any issues you see, you let me know and I'll handle it for you."
Nice.
And they would be like, "Well, there's a lot of trash on the street. I'll have my guys clean it up."
Oh, cool.
So we'd clean stuff up. I just gained myself free security on that block with that lady.
Wow.
Dude, that old lady is looking out the window at all times.
Yeah, and I believe that.
She has my card.
Goes a long way. Guys won't think that way.
She has my card, and
she's somebody. Even on that side, like that's a business opportunity.
Then
right?
I would tell them, "Hey, if there's other vacant properties on here that the owners, chances are she knows a lot of people live on a block.
Yeah.
Anybody you get me contact with that I buy their house, I'll give you $1,000 cash." Well, little old lady came through.
Phones are ringing, doors are knocking, right?
So
that's how business is done, man.
And I was only buying multi-units down there or properties that were properly zoned. And in those areas, in those lower income areas, you still get a lot of RM1 zoning in the city of Philadelphia, which you have up to 4 units by right. And a lot of them you just do triplexes. Then we were buying duplexes, triplexes, 5 units, this and that. One of them, there was cats living into one, some crazy lady, and I'm walking in to deal with this crazy lady, and here comes Milady and one of the dudes work for him chasing an abandoned cat down the street down the steps with a rake, pushed me out of the way, and I'm like, what am I getting into?
Yeah.
But dude, it worked out.
You guys came a long way. Yeah, that's funny as hell. Some of those stores are great because look, you're not going to get into the prime. That's the thing that a lot of investors, when they call me, they think they can get right into the big leagues, right? It's like anything. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes following your mentors on it. It takes learning the ropes, learning the neighborhoods, having a shit ton of mistakes, right? Because everybody tries their hand in the flip or rental game, and you fall flat pretty quick.
How many people when I was doing it were like, you're insane. Why are you buying all these multi-units in North Philly? You're out of your mind.
But then the narrative changes. It's like, well, how the hell did he get all this money to buy this up here?
It made me a monopoly millionaire.
Well,
it made me a monopoly millionaire.
Think about it that way, right? It's like, all right, so They shit on you for kind of getting into that game, getting into that area.
And then it shifts to, how do I do it?
Yeah, well, how do I do it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could take that. It's all calculated risk. And it's kind of, you listen to Tommy back then. Tommy knew his shit, but like,
that dude has major balls.
And I got to be honest, he's a guy that you've heard about for 30, 40 years. I barely have ever, the guy's like a ghost, right? So he's in and out, but you hear legendary stories on it.
Wears Timberlands, pair of jeans, and a Nike t-shirt everywhere he goes.
I would
you would never know this.
Would he get on this show?
No, probably not. You would never know he's papered up. You know what I mean?
Oh man!
But he used to always tell me, he was like, "Dude, it's just money. You can make it back. We're hustlers. You can make it back." And
no doubt.
This dude's right.
And you were grabbing some crazy ass properties back then, and I thought the same.
Crazy ass stories too.
Crazy ass stories to go along with it. But
people having hot sauce packet fights in one of my rentals, like the cups of the thick hot sauce. It's like, dude, like that, people not paying. I'm going in there like rifling their shit out the front door and stuff, like shit that you probably shouldn't do, right?
Yeah, of course.
But like,
but look, again, it all works out in the end, and you got to start somewhere. That's the whole deal, right? So like, I keep getting a lot of the calls, right? Because the market is so different from what it used to be. A lot of people aren't letting go of their asset. They're not trying to sell their house, but they want to get into this game. So we got a lot of cool, hard money people coming up, private money people coming up, very young investors, guys that are just getting their first game. Some guys crush it right off the bat. Like, some younger proteges of yours that like are absolutely on fire, and they call me and I'm like, I don't think this deal makes sense. And they go for it anyway, and guess what? It works out. Maybe they have that same mindset.
Listen, a deal that might not make sense for me could make sense for you.
There we go.
And there's not a cookie cutter plan to do this. You have to find what works for you, and you need to stick with it and just refine that process. Don't say, this guy's doing this, I want to do this. What works best for you? Do that.
You know what kind of worker you are. You know what kind of crew you have or lack thereof. You know what kind of funds you're working with. Everything is different, right? Everything. So my suggestion would always be link up with somebody. Again, you're going to hear this in nauseum. Grab a mentor. Tommy was your mentor back then, right? He was showing you the ropes of how to get this shit done.
My one advice to anyone who wants to get started, and I see this happen a lot, don't do it. Don't get paralysis by analysis. If you overanalyze and fail to pull the trigger, you're not doing anything. Like, pull the trigger, go out there, take a chance on yourself, and fucking do it.
Dude, on that note, I'm telling you, the next couple guests are going to lead right into this. Our hard money people are going to get our first-time investors locked in, dialed in. If we can't help them with the finances and from a traditional residential, conventional, and FHA standpoint, we're going to have alternative financing lenders here that are going to show you the ropes. So, dude, this was some seriously awesome educational stuff. We're going to keep giving it to you. Nick, it was great working with you on this one again. Till next time, guys, for the Atomic Real Estate Podcast show, we'll see you later.
Let us know if you have any suggestions for guests or topics on the show going forward.
If you enjoyed our episode, please consider supporting the show by rating and reviewing the podcast. Also, check us out on Instagram at Atomic Real Estate Show to find out when new shows drop and to participate in our community Q&As. The Atomic Real Estate Show was brought to you by Direct Subs. Direct Subs is the #1 place for real estate investors to connect with local contractors for their flips, rentals, renovations, and new construction projects.